Story 54.
Meeting the challenge.
Words we know.
Daunting. Staunchly. Exhausted. Persevere. Coherent. Sphere. Country. Trouble. Touching. Believe. Believable. Unbelievable. Bruises. Suitcase. Fruitful. Mountain. Fountain. Certain. Pleasure. Measure. Treasure. Generous. Gymnasium. Emergency. Pressure. Assure. Reassure. Dangerous. Contagious. Anxiousness. Adventure. Culture. Future. Complete. Extreme. Supreme.
New sounds.
As in path. Fast. Mask. Path. Task. Fasten. Lasted. Blasted. Calm. Demanding. Castle. Forecast. Gasping. Overcast. Find some words in the story with the sound ah, as in path.
Special words.
Precarious. Conscious. Bruise. Stomach. Triumph. Squad. Efficiency. Quality. Maneuver. Area. Apparently. Immediately. Humour. Homo sapiens. Before attempting to read the story, learn how to say each special word. If necessary, check its meaning. Make up a sentence using each special word. Meeting the challenge. The forecast was daunting. but Judy was determined to go cross-country skiing. It all started the year before. Judy had felt hopeless at skiing. It was unbelievable to her how quickly the rest of the class had got the knack. They could balance on those polished boards and propel themselves forward while she, try as she might, just couldn't stay up. Judy had almost given up, defeated. But these holidays, Judy had made up her mind and was determined to master the skills. She had spent the whole of the July school holidays at Mount Sterling, and she had staunchly persevered with her balancing problem. She was not going to be beaten. How many times had she fallen? She'd lost count. She'd also lost count of her bruises. She'd become an expert at quickly slotting her boots back into her skis after each undignified collapse. Without wasting a moment, she would try again. "Lean down the mountain," the ski instructor yelled. Too late. She'd leaned back and bang! "Is that the 11th or the 12th bruise on my bottom?" she moaned. "Nothing ventured, nothing gained," she muttered through gritted teeth. "Keep your knees bent! Sway from the hips!" screeched the instructor. Yet again, the path hurled itself up at her. Then, one grey morning, alone in the sleet, she mastered it. At last she too could stay on her skis. In the end, it had all happened so fast. Judy was gasping with pleasure as she broke the news to her friends. "I can do it! I can do it!" This triumph was now 3 days past. Judy's father had promised to take a group of them cross-country skiing. It bothered Judy that the sky was overcast and threatening, and that the weather forecast warned of the danger of high winds in mountain areas. She was afraid they would not be allowed to go, and in fact, having heard the forecast, her father was against the idea of skiing that day. Nevertheless, under great pressure from his daughter and her friends, he eventually gave in, against his better judgment. The group set off on their skis towards the castle, set high on Mount Sterling. High spirits are usually contagious, and Judy's father soon joined in the jokes and laughter. The castle was a well-known landmark amongst these peaks. Despite its grand name, it is in fact a rough cattleman's hut, which bushwalkers use for overnight stops. The group set themselves the task of getting there before lunch. It was an uphill trek, rather demanding and sometimes exceedingly slow. But then they thought it would be faster and easier going downhill when they were tired on the way home. Suddenly it happened. No one expected it, least of all Judy's cautious and exacting father. He was in the lead, testing the path for the followers. Then in a flash he was gone. The path had collapsed under him. The skiers gasped in horror. Judy's father grabbed frantically at roots and shrubs, but his grasp was wrenched loose by the momentum of his fall. The watchers stared from above, helpless. Judy felt the blood thumping in her head. The fall lasted for what seemed an eternity, then ended as abruptly as it had begun, with a short cry of pain. Judy's father hit a narrow ledge. At the same time, he was able to get his arms around a small tree trunk and grasp it securely enough to prevent himself from falling any further. Judy felt an icy chill sweep through her. It was all her fault. She'd made her dad come out in this bad weather. He'd done it to please her. What if he died? Judy! Her father's calm voice cut through her panic. Judy, it's all right. I am in no immediate danger. Get your friends to the castle. Then get some emergency people. Judy, stay calm. We are not in danger if you keep control of yourself. Her father spoke to her in the same serious but reassuring manner he used every day. Father never liked panic. He always said that Homo sapiens should use their extraordinary gift of brain power to solve problems. Inspired by this thought, Judy immediately became the problem solver. Come on, let's get moving, called Judy. Still very shaken, the young skiers headed for the castle. Just how they would contact emergency services once they got there, Judy didn't have a clue. But she knew that in any emergency, you simply made the next possible move. This was her father's advice, and now the words really rang true. Reaching the castle, the skiers discovered that good fortune was on their side. A young couple, bushwalkers, had arrived there half an hour before. A fire was already blazing. The couple had decided that the day was too miserable for them to proceed. And what's more, they had a mobile phone. For Judy and her companions, their memory of the remainder of that day had always retained a dreamlike quality, a scene from an adventure movie. With remarkable efficiency, emergency services swung into operation. Helicopters in the air, police on the ground, and the dog squad for good measure. After a precarious and lengthy manoeuvre, the helicopter positioned itself so that a crew member could descend to Judy's father. He was only half conscious and suffering from hypothermia. The experienced rescue worker fitted a sling around the exhausted man and then began the scary procedure of hauling him into the helicopter. Immediately, the rescuers reached the castle. The patient's wet clothes were removed and he was lifted into a sleeping bag. His body was cold and grey. He was scarcely breathing. Judy felt petrified at the sight of him. Then an unexpected thing happened. The two ambulance men removed their heavy coats and climbed into the bag. There was one on each side of her father. Extreme hypothermia. It is urgent that he be warmed right away, they explained. After 10 minutes that seemed like eternity, his colour began to return. Finally, her father moaned. "You've made it, Dad!" Judy heard her voice breaking with joy and relief. "Thanks, Judy," sighed her father. Her companions told Judy later that they had followed her lead. The fact that she had apparently remained so calm kept them calm. Just as well no one had X-ray vision. Judy chuckled later to herself when her sense of humour had returned. "I'm glad they couldn't see the butterflies in my stomach."
Words we've used.
Forecast. Overcast. Demanding. Commanding. Gasping. Grasping. Fasten. Ghastly. Lasted. Castle. Precarious. Conscious. Apparently. Immediately. Efficiency. Efficiently. Quality. Equality. Squad. Squash. Area. Homo sapiens.
Some new words.
Triumphant. Triumphantly. Consciously. Consciousness. Humorous. Humorless. Lasting. Everlasting. Anxiety. Anxiously.
Read aloud. English expressions. Word. Phrase. Sentence.
Forecast. Weather forecast. Check the weather forecast before sailing. Gasping. Gasping for breath. The diver finally surfaced, gasping for breath. Conscious. Only partly conscious. After the crash, I was only partly conscious. Stomach. My stomach turned. When I saw the dead cat, my stomach turned. Quality. Superior quality. Smith's Footwear sells superior quality shoes.